On the 20th of April 2010, an explosion kills 11 workers on the Deepwater Horizon oil rig and opens a well that pours 8,000 barrels of crude oil into the Gulf every day. Remote operated submersibles, a 125-ton steel dome, and golf balls. This is the $1.6 billion salvage operation to plug the worst oil spill in history. Deepwater Horizon was a dynamically positioned mobile offshore drilling rig. It was owned by Transocean Oil and leased to BP. The drill site, known as Macondo or MC252, was located 42 miles southeast of Venice, Louisiana in the Macondo prospect. The rig had a crew of 126 people on board on the day of the incident. After drilling to its final depth of 5,600 meters and cementing the steel casing, the rig exploded and burned. As the crew tried to regain control of the flowing oil and gas, the pipe in the wellhead buckled. The emergency disconnect system failed to trigger the blowout preventer and disconnect the marine riser. I've made a video about this accident on my disaster channel, which I'll link here. Immediately after the accident, BP activates its oil response plan and starts to assemble resources to salvage the rig and the well. To regain control of the blowout preventer, they send down an ROV to connect into the hydraulic line of the blowout preventer system, 1,500 meters below the waterline. The preventer is used to seal the oil well in an emergency. It has several components that can seal around the drill pipe to close only the annular space, or cut through the drill pipe to seal the well entirely. The system has two electronic control pods which have both failed during the accident, and a hydraulic control panel which supplies hydraulic power to the various preventer components. The drill rig is connected to the blowout preventer using a marine riser. The riser is the outer pipe. Inside the riser is the actual drill pipe. The rig pumps drill mud down the drill pipe to lubricate the drill head while they're drilling. The mud and rock come back up the riser in the annular space, which is the space between the drill pipe and the riser. The riser connects to the blowout preventer stack, which is 17 meters tall and weighs about 400 tons. The blowout preventer stack connects to the wellhead. Because both control pods are damaged, BP engineers need to bypass the system and activate the preventer manually. The ROV approaches the preventer's hydraulic control panel or stab plate and lines up a hydraulic connector called a hot stab, which acts like a hydraulic injection. The ROV uses the hot stab to try and close the middle pipe ram and seal the annular space around the drill pipe. If they can seal the space, they can possibly regain control of the fire burning on the rig and pump cement into the drill pipe to seal the well. But the ROV hooks into the hydraulic line of the test ram rather than the middle pipe ram. The test ram is only there to make sure the blowout preventer can actually hold pressure. It's not designed to seal the well. The Macondo well 252 continues to flow, feeding the fire on the burning rig. The US Coast Guard are concerned about the 700,000 gallons of diesel on board the Deepwater Horizon rig and the possibility of crude oil being released, which is estimated at 8,000 barrels or 336,000 gallons every day. A thin film of oil floats on the surface of the water, extending 2 miles from the rig. The next day, as the fire on the rig continues to burn, another ROV is sent to activate the blowout preventer using the hot stab procedure to try and close the middle pipe ram. If that doesn't work, they have a series of escalating steps to activate the shear rams inside the blowout preventer to cut through the drill pipe and seal the well entirely. But that's a last resort if the hot stab procedure doesn't work. During the accident, the crew on Deepwater Horizon tried to activate the shear rams. Now BP are still trying to find a way to avoid that and save the well. The ROV's hydraulic pump malfunctions. The attempt is aborted and the ROV returns to the surface for repairs, and BP's options are about to become even more limited. On the 22nd of April, 2 days after the accident, Deepwater Horizon sinks and releases 700,000 gallons of diesel into the ocean. BP sends an ROV to find and assess the damage to the wreck. They find the rig upside down less than a quarter mile northwest of the blowout preventer, with the marine riser ripped from the rig and lying alongside. Oil is leaking from the end of the riser and the end of the drill pipe, which sticks out from the riser. Now BP have to activate the auto shear to cut through the drill pipe and seal the well. They send an ROV to cut the electrical wires of the blowout preventer to activate the dead man operation, which is an electrical failsafe that triggers the auto shear ram if the system loses power. The dead man system should shut the well during an emergency without anyone needing to trigger it manually, but it didn't trigger during the accident, and when they cut the wires, nothing happens. The two electronic control pods are both defective. One pod's wires are crossed and the solenoid doesn't activate, and the other pod's 9-volt battery is dead. BP tell the ROV pilots to activate the auto shear trigger pin function, which is a mechanical failsafe to cut through the drill pipe. What the engineers don't know is that during the accident, the pipe buckled, which pushed it away from the sense line, putting it outside the cutting area of the shear rams. The auto shear trigger pin works and the shear ram blades close, but instead of a clean cut, the pipe is simply deformed and oil continues to flow. The salvage team used the ROV to try for another hot stab, but after multiple attempts and accumulating damage to the hydraulics, there's not enough pressure to close the ram completely. They try to run the trigger pin function again, but it hits the thicker tool joint section of the drill pipe instead of the thinner pipe body. 4 attempts fail, and the well continues to release oil into the ocean. BP need to find another way to stop the leak. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has a tool to model how oil behaves at sea. They forecast that 35% of the oil will evaporate, 10 to 15% will be diluted, and the remaining 50% will form an emulsion with seawater that can be recovered and pumped. By the 23rd of April, the oil spill has formed a surface slick 1 mile wide by 5 miles long. 32 boats and 5 aircraft are mobilized to spread dispersants and deploy skimmers to clean up the spill. After 3 days of searching 5,000 square miles for survivors, the US Coast Guard calls off the search for the 11 missing crew members of Deepwater Horizon. BP now appoint 2 teams to stop the leak. One team will drill a relief well and another team will work to cap the well. A relief well is a second wellbore drilled at an angle into the base of the original well, which will allow the salvage team to pump heavy drilling mud called kill mud and cement into the original well and permanently seal the well. But they can't seal the base of the well until the free flow has stopped. The well needs to be capped first. To cap the well, the second team have to build a capping stack. But that will take time, and so first they need a way to manage the free-flowing oil and gas. On the 25th of April, they try again to activate the blowout preventer's middle pipe ram using the ROV's hot stab and a portable subsea accumulator. The accumulator stores pressurized hydraulic fluid in accumulators, which can be released to supply extra hydraulic pressure needed to activate the shear rams. But the BP engineers don't know the pipe has buckled, and so all their attempts end in failure. On the 29th of April, the spill reaches the Louisiana coast, stretching across a 600-mile area. The governor declares a state of emergency, and within days, almost 100 miles of oil containment booms are deployed. To minimize the effect of the spill, BP inject chemical dispersants underwater directly at the source of the leak as it flows out the riser. Dispersants are normally used at the surface to break the oil into small droplets, which sink to the sea floor, out of sight and out of mind. I've heard a number of anecdotal reports about chemical burns and cancer linked to dispersants from volunteers working on beach cleanups. I don't know the full impact of chemical dispersants on the underwater ecology, but I can't imagine pumping more chemicals into the ocean is a good thing. On the 1st of May, BP engineers turned their attention to the annular preventer, which is a large donut-shaped device used to seal the wellbore during drilling operations. A rubber seal should create a pressure-tight barrier around the drill pipe and prevent oil from escaping out the riser. But the misaligned pipe in the wellbore stops the annular preventer from sealing the well. On the 2nd of May, Development Driller 3, a semi-submersible ultra-deepwater drilling rig, starts drilling the first relief well less than half a mile from MC252. A relief well is a reliable way to kill a blowout in case the leak can't be stopped, but it takes time and precision to execute successfully. On the 7th of May, a 125-ton containment dome or cofferdam is lowered into the water. It'll be positioned over the largest leak at the end of the marine riser. This cofferdam is a steel structure roughly 12 meters tall, 7 meters wide, and 4 meters deep, designed to capture oil leaking from the end of the pipe like an upside-down funnel. A pipe at the top of the funnel will channel the oil to a collection vessel at the surface. As the cofferdam is lowered to the seabed, hydrate crystals begin to form inside the dome. Methane gas rising from the well mixed with cold seawater forms ice-like crystals that clog the dome, obstructing flow and making the dome positively buoyant. The dome, filled with trapped gas and oil, floats up towards the surface vessels, putting them at risk of collision. The sailors and engineers manage to regain control and move the cofferdam away before it causes any damage. They set it aside on the seabed away from the leaking well. The cofferdam isn't a total failure. They learn that future designs need to include a methanol injection in the dome to prevent the formation of hydrate crystals. BP engineers move on to their next idea. A riser insertion tube tool will act like a straw inserted into the broken riser to suck oil out the pipe. After 2 false starts, BP engineers insert a mile-long tube into the broken riser pipe, which diverts some of the oil to a drill ship at the surface. The tube siphons about 2,000 barrels a day, roughly a quarter of the 8,000 barrels billowing into the ocean. Oil and gas are redirected to the surface for processing or flaring, where they burn it off. But this is just a short-term measure to minimize the amount of oil flowing into the ocean. The next day, the oil platform Development Drill 2 begins drilling a second relief well. With the riser insertion tube providing some relief, BP start work on a top kill plan to pump heavy mud through the blowout preventer and into the well with sufficient force to stop the flow of oil. But they worry that the pressure in the well will force the mud back out, and so they need a way to slow it down and block it up. Engineers prepare what they call a junk shot. I would love to have been in a meeting where they try to explain the junk shot to a board of directors. They connect a junk shot manifold directly to inlets on the side of the blowout preventer with flexible hoses called jumper lines. They then shoot their junk and heavy mud into the blowout preventer. The junk shot is packed with shredded rope, pieces of rubber, ball sealers, tire fragments, golf balls, and rocks. It's the kind of junk that my 6-year-old would stuff down a drain pipe to block it up. After 3 days and 6 failed attempts to kill the well with heavy mud and golf balls, they move on to their next idea, the lower marine riser package top hat cap containment system. In the first week of June, about 6 weeks after the accident, BP operators use a hydraulic shear like the jaws of life to slice off most of the bent riser pipe attached to the blowout preventer. To get a smooth finish, they use a diamond wire cutter to cut off the remaining pipe close to the blowout preventer. The diamond cutter gets stuck and they have to use the hydraulic shear to cut below the diamond cutter, which then leaves a jagged edge which they were trying to avoid. The operators connect the top hat containment cap design version 4 to seal around the blowout preventer, which increases the recovery rate, and the oil is channeled to a vessel on the surface. Methanol is pumped into the cap to prevent the formation of ice hydrates that could block the mile-long pipe rising from the cap. But they aren't able to contain all the flowing oil. A small portion still escapes from under the lip and through 4 open vents on top of the device, which didn't seal as planned. The containment dome is able to collect 6,000 barrels of oil a day. That rises to 10,500 barrels a day after a week, and the containment dome's daily capture reaches about 15,000 barrels of oil a day, far exceeding the 8,000 barrels a day that they thought were escaping from the well. The rate is revised upward to between 35,000 and 60,000 barrels a day. BP engineers decide to reverse the flow of the junk shot manifold. Instead of injecting mud and golf balls, they use the same system to extract a further 10,000 barrels a day. But the drilling vessel operating the junk shot manifold has no storage capacity, so they have to burn the oil and gas. Up to this point, the team have been implementing short-term measures to capture oil, and that's about to change. On the 10th of July, oil extraction is stopped and the top hat containment dome is removed to make way for a new 3-ram capping stack. This new cap is like a blowout preventer stacked on top of the original blowout preventer. It has functional hydraulic rams that can seal around the well or connect a riser to take oil to the surface. While they swap from the top hat to the 3-ram capping stack, oil flows into the Gulf for 48 hours. But the assembly should allow operators to regain control. On the 12th of July, the new 40-ton 3-ram capping stack is sealed in place on top of the original blowout preventer. The next step is to test the well's integrity. Almost immediately, they find a leak. It takes another 3 days to replace the part that's leaking, and the test starts over. On the 15th of July, after almost 3 months, BP report that the new capping assembly has stopped the flow of oil for the first time since the accident. Shutting the well at the surface provides some short-term relief, but the cap at the surface is a single point of failure. BP need to seal the well to hold its own against the pressure of the reservoir. At the end of July, BP gets approval for a static kill operation. Static kill will push the oil and gas back into the reservoir and balance the pressure of the well. On the 3rd of August, the drill ship Q4000 starts pumping drilling mud through the choke and kill manifold, through the Deepwater Horizon blowout preventer and into the MC252 well. Just after midnight, the team hits static condition, where the weight of drilling mud holds back the pressure of the well. Engineers then pump cement into the well, and after it sets, they conduct a pressure test. Over the next few weeks, they gradually release the pressure from the surface, and on the 21st of August, BP confirms that the cement plug has sealed the MC252 well. But there's one more place they still need to seal. In early September, engineers remove the Deepwater Horizon blowout preventer stack and send it to Louisiana for investigation. They install a new blowout preventer at the site. In mid-September, the Development Driller 3 relief well intersects the MC252 well above the oil reservoir, and the next day they pump cement into the base of the well. On the 19th of September, 5 months after the accident, BP completes the final bottom kill operation, permanently sealing the Macondo well. The leak was stopped in mid-July 2010, 86 days after the blowout began, and the well was permanently plugged on the 19th of September. Deepwater Horizon released 4.9 million barrels of oil into the Gulf, coating about 1,300 miles of coastline. BP spent over $1.6 billion on efforts to regain control of the well, and a further $65 billion to cover the cleanup costs, legal fees, settlements, and fines related to the spill. The total cost to the economy is estimated as high as $145 billion. The wreck of Deepwater Horizon is still on the seabed today. To watch another complex salvage operation, click the video on screen now.